So, do you need me to talk about you at all?
How we met.
Are you? Is that what you're doing?
You tell us how we met.
Intro.
This is my friend Gerry. I've known Gerry since, not for Gerry Mak. I've known Gerry since we were 15, 16? And I was working at a hardware store, and I was still in the closet. What was it? I was still in the closet. And then, and Gerry came in the skin tight punk pants. Were you wearing those? Or were those the ones? Those were handcuffed to his. Yeah, right under those. Yeah. So Gerry's friend and the two of them came into the hardware store, and his friend John, who had this massive mohawk, right, was handcuffed to a pair of Gerry's pants, and they had lost the key. And these were Gerry's favorite pants, so he wasn't going to cut the loop. So, so they had gone to the police officers, and they laughed them out of the building. And then they came to our hardware store where my colleague, my boss, I don't know what he was, supervisor, John had to then take a chop saw or like a circle saw, I forget which was. They just buzzed it right off of John's wrist, which was something kind of crazy. And then a week later, I ran into him at our local diner where we would all smoke cigarettes and disco fries and drink coffee and we're so fucking cool, everybody's lame, that kind of thing. But that's Gerry, and he's a fantastic artist and friend, and so yes.
So I just this is a piece of fan fiction. I'm not going to say what franchise. You probably figure it out if you're into the franchise. So this is fan fiction. I got to know Atlanta by becoming a welcome sight. Pizza and weed can get you through a lot of doors. I've delivered to the mayor's wife, Falcons players, Jarbo from Swans, you name it. Pizza and weed are the common denominators. I didn't need to get into anything seriously illegal. I had a degree from Emory and I was just coasting, trying to figure out my life after I almost fucked up for good. But I got clean, started making enough money to pay the rent, and I was doing okay, clean record and everything. My parents were going through their own shit up in Michigan, and I just didn't want to bother them anymore. I thought that when I stopped asking them for money, they would be happy. I wanted to give them peace after all the stress and pain I put them through. Before the outbreak, I was in my 20s, a recovering opiate addict, hanging with my alleged cousins, ex-gang guys who my parents wouldn't acknowledge existed. I was running Mellow Mushroom and Sour Diesel all over town, going to metal shows at the Drunken Unicorn, getting high and trying to freestyle. Kid shit that my cousins had been doing since they were teenagers and that I only got to do after college. Considering where I almost wound up, going back to video games and weed seemed healthy and innocent. I was really trying to stay out of trouble and be okay with myself after I almost lost myself. Mostly I was contented just to listen to other people's stories. Potheads tend to tell stories, and I guess just having one of those dispositions, I'd have one of those dispositions that makes people feel safe telling me about the viscosity of their menstrual blood, or the time they accidentally got a boner near a child, or the time they curb stomped the guy who tried to rob them, or the scientific difference between welding and brazing, or how they have rape fantasies, or the smell of their farts when they eat gluten. I never felt compelled to tell much of my own story, if I even really had one. I hadn't done anything, accomplished anything, other than graduating from college and getting clean, which involved actually not as much work for me as it did for many other people. My struggle wasn't that much of a struggle. I just felt like an empty vessel. I let everyone around me pour themselves into it to distract me from the void that drove me to opiates in the first place. I was just the delivery guy, the buddy, the welcome sight that everybody wants to be around, but no one gives that much thought to. Which was okay by me at the time. I wasn't trying to give myself much of a thought either. I was happy to be alive, even if I wasn't all that happy. The hardest thing was the guilt over what I put my parents through, and I couldn't face them or talk to them without getting irritable or defensive. So I stopped talking to them for a while. Just until I had my shit figured out, I thought. Something I could tell them that would make them proud. That's now one of my biggest regrets. I didn't know then I wouldn't get to see them again. I guess a lot of us have stuff unfinished from before all this. I did get to see my father once. His brother owned a grocery store in Macon. We always visited him when my dad was in town. My dad came in about 2 months before the outbreak. His brother was depressed. He was divorcing his wife. The store wasn't going well, and so we were just paying him a personal visit to check in on things and see if he needed any help. When we got there, my uncle was chipper and cheerful, acting like nothing was wrong, and he refused to talk about his wife other than to say, "She's at the spa." My dad slipped in an envelope full of cash into the register when my uncle wasn't looking. We had some coffee, then we left. My dad and I were silent all the way back to Atlanta. We had dinner before he went to the airport. All he really said to me was, "Have you tried looking for another job? You have a prestigious degree and you deliver pizzas." I didn't reply. He left and I never heard from him or my uncle again. Even now I have no idea if they were alive or dead, but I can only assume. I wasn't there to know how their stories ended, and I won't have a chance anymore to ask how their stories began. My own parents are just people I used to know. Even before all this, I felt like there was something creeping up, something in our society, like a walker, that was dead but coming back to get us all. I mean, it was practically right there on the news, all over TV, all over our culture before it actually happened. You know how birds and a lot of animals can sense a storm coming before clouds even appear? We were all bracing ourselves, taking cover, and self-medicating long before the outbreak. But I can tell you business was really swift for me in the lead-up. That walker is still here with us, with every person that's still alive. It won't go away, probably until we're all dead. That's why we keep going insane and killing each other. Most of the world population gone, all of our past sins from before erased, playing field supposedly even, but the white guys are still in charge, the black guys keep dying, and we're in the dark ages again. The Christians got their rapture, and we're the damned left here on earth. I wish I could ask my father some questions. I wish I remembered more. What town in Korea he was from, where he met my mom, what their parents did during the war. All I know is that they worked hard. My dad is a cabinetry retailer, and my mom is a cake decorator for Baskin-Robbins. They tried to keep their heads down, do what they were supposed to do, assimilate to suburban Kalamazoo as best as they could with 3 kids. But they forgot to tell us anything about their lives and their experiences. All I remember is how stressed they were, how nervous and embarrassed they were when white people came over, how furious my dad would get over something as dumb as leaving the cap off of the toothpaste. I remember my mom sobbing herself, like asking Jesus why he had forsaken her. Only in passing did they mention little details like a pet dog in their childhood or how their parents disapproved of their wedding. But they never really went into detail. They considered it an American thing to want to talk about yourself so much. I always assumed one of my sisters would get around to asking them that, and maybe they did, but I'll never know. Maybe I should have stared at my parents' faces more to remember them. Maybe I should have listened to their silences instead of trying to block them out with my own. Maybe I should have talked to them about my addiction and my anxiety instead of shutting them out. Maybe I should have learned to speak Korean better. But it doesn't matter now. 죄송합니다. I'm sorry. I had a dream about a groom blowing away his wedding party with a shotgun when he learned his bride was cheating on him. Everyone was laughing. Everyone was on fire. The church was on fire. He even shot the dog. One night before all this, I was out on my dirt bike in Buckhead riding around. I was practicing my tricks in the parking lot of Lenox Square. It was late, about 1 a.m. The lot was mostly empty except for a Jetta, white, stickers on the back, a Union Jack, and a Confederate flag. I had my eye on it for a bit to make sure no one was coming for it, and when it seemed clear, I rode up to it, pulled the door, and it opened. I used to borrow cars sometimes and joyride around just to pretend like I was living somebody else's life, just to clear my head and roam around. But I always left the cars somewhere safe, and I only did it a few times. That night I figured I'd go for another spin. I got in the car, flipped down the visor, no joke, a key fell out, Walter White style, like God telling me to take this car. So I did, turned the ignition, the guy had a screwdriver tape in. Not the early pre-Nazi shit, but the fucking White Rider album, which has a Klansman on the cover. It's also a really shitty album. White Rider, your strength is your pride. So you have to be a real OG hipster racist to be blaring it on a cassette in your vintage Volkswagen. Anyway, I was just thinking this guy was a dumb skinhead, and I was having fun driving around pretending to be him. I wondered what the fuck the guy was doing at Atlantic Square. How did racists shop? Go to the Apple store? How do they live in a city that's majority black? I found the answer when I parked the car in a random lot about a mile away where I knew there were no cameras. I opened the trunk just to see what the guy had in there. It was guns, lots of them. AR-15s, MP5s, some handguns, flak vests, flash grenades, and a load of ammo all in a duffel bag. It was like he was at the mall to shoot the place up and he chickened out. Who drives up with all their guns and just walks away without them? Maybe he decided to shoot himself in the bathroom instead. Maybe he had a change of heart and he's in the woods crying. Anyway, I got out of there as fast as I could. I never found out what happened to him or the owner. I never found out what happened to the owner of that car. I guess a lot of people, some might even say God himself, finished the job for him. These days it seems like guys like him are the show owners, the guys with guns and grudges, instead of the guys who bear the burdens and suffer the consequences. That's one thing my parents understood well, consequences. And if I have any lasting thing I got from them, it's the ability to lay low, adapt, and do what needs to be done. Always looking beyond the move ahead to the repercussions. Repercussions that could either eat you alive or save your dumb ass. If I survive all this, I know I owe it to them.
Yeah, Walking Dead. Yeah. Okay.